Hi everyone. Obviously it's been a rough day and a rough evening to come home to with a overly tired toddler who is holding us hostage, wanting to watch shows, and it's obviously not going to happen. So it's been a sad night at our house. I want to talk self-care. I figured that this would be relatively quick. So if you have ideas, please share, because as always, these are a lot more fun when they're interactive. And I am Dr. Jordan Leasure. I'm the owner and physician of North Shore Proactive Health, a state-of-the-art wellness clinic in the northern Chicago suburbs. So the weather's been crummy here. So any care that's been going on, the majority of the care that's been going on has been going on inside. I have the pleasure of being considered an essential worker. So our office is still open. And we are seeing acute care patients, so people that are in pain that should be at our office and not at the ER, or acute care centers where there's obviously people who may be positive for the virus. But self-care is essentially anything that you can do that helps you to feel better. And yes, that is a broad explanation by definition. So, the best explanation that I was given, or the best information to back up that recommendation, was by my coach, because I have the tendency to go very, very hard, very, very fast for as long as I can, and then I'm done. And my done is essentially me sitting and watching TV for 2 hours. Now that may be normal or an everyday activity for a lot of people, but for me, I don't have that time. I consider it a waste of my time because I'm not accomplishing anything. And my coach had the best response when I told her that I was feeling guilty or I was feeling bad for doing that. And she said, you know what, that's your time, that's your recharging, so utilize that time, as however you want. And that brought us to tonight. So essentially, when we're talking self-care, it is not necessarily working out for everyone. It may be for you. It may not necessarily be eating the 9 servings of fruits and vegetables that I recommend. It may be. If you recognize that you feel better after you do that, yes, that may be your definition of self-care. It may not necessarily be taking time for yourself. You may consider self-care sending a card to a loved one. You may consider self-care during this time doing a Zoom meeting or a Zoom happy hour. And that's okay. That's what self-care is meant to be. It's meant to be a deliberate action that you are utilizing to make yourself feel better. Now, my hope is that any sort of self-care is not going to be explicitly damaging to your health, whether that is mental health or physical health. So I wanted to pull up a couple ideas that other people have recommended as far as self-care, because I think mine are typically standard, what other people would think of. So going outside and taking 5 deep breaths, of course, eating well, doing an exercise class, and that exercise may be yoga, it may be CrossFit, it may be spin, anything that you do that allows you to decompress for a little bit of time. Of course, most people think of self-reflection when they think of self-care. So that may be meditation. It may be keeping a gratitude journal. A lot of those emotional well-being exercises often come to mind when we think of self-care. Maybe getting a massage or getting a pedicure. I can tell you that's going to be top on my list when these quarantine restrictions are lifted, if they're ever lifted. We'll see. I may need to learn some new skills. But I was reading an article on Psychology Today, and they had broken down their self-care into a few different categories. So their first category was sensory, and I think some people can relate to this. Sensory is not just touch, but it could be smell again, fresh flowers, clean sheets. I think a lot of us can utilize some of these recommendations while we're in this, quarantine, staring up at a starry sky, appreciating the outdoors, cuddling with a pet, paying attention to your breathing, that breathing exercise that we learned a few days ago. I hope you guys are still practicing. A hand on your heart, a hand on your belly. Make sure your stomach is expanding whenever you're breathing in. Laying down, pretend you're a cat. Lay down in the window and enjoy that sun beating in. Those of us in the northern Illinois or the northern part of the country could definitely utilize a little bit more sun. Even just sitting outside by a fire pit and appreciating the warmth, appreciating the smells, appreciating the crack of the wood. There's a lot that we can appreciate that I don't think that we do. And maybe with this extra time that each of us is given by design, we can utilize it to execute our senses a little more often. Now, pleasure is going to be a little bit different for everyone. Maybe doing an art, maybe doing a craft, learning a new skill. There's lots of free resources online these days. Keeping a journal. And again, when I say gratitude journal, and writing down 3 things that you're grateful for, that's a very easy way to keep a gratitude journal, but just journal about your day. Sometimes getting your feelings out, writing a letter to somebody that wronged you, you don't need to mail it to get that energy out, and that's the key. Remember that if you are angry at someone, if you are hurt by something that someone did, hanging on to that energy is detrimental to you. It doesn't affect them, believe me. They are not losing one night's sleep on the fact that they cut you off in traffic or fired you at your job or broke your heart or whatever it may be. Believe me, they out of sight, out of mind. And that's what you need to do, is let go of that energy. And whatever it is, if it's journaling, if it's writing it down and then burning it, I've done that. There's lots of opportunity to just get rid of that energy. Back to pleasure. Be a tourist in your own city. Now, unfortunately, we don't have that opportunity. However, there are some really awesome resources. The museums that we're doing free tours. If anyone saw the penguins just walking around the aquarium, that was kind of entertaining. So there's lots of things that you can do that is not just mindless watching movies. Take this opportunity to learn. Take this opportunity that maybe you haven't had before and we may not have again. Mental self-improvement. So clean out a junk drawer. I do that in my car regularly. Make a list. Make a list of what you want to utilize this time for. Make a list of things you want to do once we're free. Something I never thought I'd be lecturing on. Immerse yourself in a crossword puzzle. I'm, again, fortunate enough that I have a toddler, so I do puzzles pretty regularly. But if you haven't, try one and see. I've got an adult coloring book that I've had since I was pregnant with Parker, and I've done 1 page. So that's on my list of things to do while we're in quarantine. Expand on your spirituality. Now, whatever your religious beliefs are, being spiritual is very different for many. And I can tell you, I don't consider myself a religious individual, but I consider myself very spiritual. And, for you, they may go hand in hand, but they don't have to. So, you may attend church services. There's different services that are now available digitally. Light a candle. And that may include a prayer for you. That may include, again, letting go of some negative energy. It may include asking for some positive energy. There's lots of opportunity. List things that you're grateful for, even if they drive you crazy sometimes. He's okay. Focus on your emotional well-being. Do you want to help me?
No.
You don't want to help? You just want to hide from Daddy?
Yeah.
Okay. Accept all your feelings and recognize that they're okay. Like we said in the very beginning of this, it's okay to not be okay. And it's okay to be okay 90% of the time and not okay 10% of the time. It's okay to have those feelings, every few minutes. There's no right answer when it comes to, especially what we're experiencing right now. Write your feelings down so that you can connect with how you feel. Recognize that you feel a certain way, that it's okay. And then if that energy and that emotion is not serving you, let it go. Laugh when you can. It's very challenging sometimes to reprimand a toddler when you want to bust out laughing. But otherwise, laugh when you can and cry when you need to. I will tell you, there are times, again, obviously, why I have no eyelashes left after this. It's not just lack of being able to get to someone, but it's stress, it's tears, and it's okay. Practice self-compassion. Understand and be kind to yourself. I think we could all use a little bit more of that every day. Now, physical self-care, obviously we talked about a lot of these. Go for a walk, go for a run. No matter what your weather is like, dress appropriately. Even if it's cold, it was snowing a couple days ago, bundle up. There's no excuse to not get out and get some fresh air. Stretch. We're routinely doing classes for our patients. We do private classes as well. There's lots of free resources. Take a look at what your opportunities are. Go for a bike ride. Or maybe it's just that you need to take a nap. Just shut down. And that's okay. That's great self-care too. Some social self-care that needs to be modified these days. I've heard of some really, really awesome things that people are doing over digital platforms. Everything obviously from, wine nights or happy hours, but also just get-togethers. People are connecting. A lot of my business meetings are now virtual. Of course, I'm meeting with patients virtually. And I have, actually one of our employees is playing bingo with some friends virtually. Each night they release, a handful of numbers and they're doing that. So again, there's no excuse. Come up with something creative and get your friends together online and make sure you stay connected, because that social aspect of health before all this nonsense happened was very lacking in our society. And I'm speaking specifically the United States. And I'm really concerned about what it's going to do to us now that we're all inside. So hopefully some of these digital platforms, if you're not familiar, send me a private message and I will literally myself walk you through how to set it up, because you may feel stressed out that you're quarantined with your spouse and or your kids, but think of the people that are stuck by themselves. I think it's going to be very, very mentally and emotionally taxing. So open up, send a friend a message. I've made it a deliberate choice to periodically text 5 friends every single day and just say, hey, how are you? I love you. I'm thinking about you. And even if it doesn't turn into a big conversation, they know somebody else, is out there. So try that and maybe try somebody you haven't talked to in a while. So if you are not feeling okay, obviously I love to have you guys to talk to and to interact with. But if you're feeling like you need more support, there are free resources out there. Please reach out to someone. Give someone a call, ask for help. There are text lines where you can just text in. So make sure that you do something, because there's always somebody to listen. You're very, very valuable. And, there will be an end to this. I may not feel like it. That's how I feel sometimes. But again, it's minute by minute. So I appreciate you watching. I'm going to put up some of my self-care suggestions on here. Jan, I got a text today to be okay from someone I went to kindergarten with. That's cool. I'll see if there's anybody I can think of that I have their cell phone number from kindergarten. Probably not. Maybe Gina. I'll send Gina a Facebook message. Or Erin. I talk to Erin all the time. So yes, text somebody from kindergarten. That's your challenge today. So I love you all. Thank you for watching. And we'll get back to some of the science tomorrow, but I thought we could all use a little bit of a reprieve, and now I have to go put an overly tired toddler to bed. If there's, again, something you want to discuss privately, feel free to send me a private message and we'll discuss privately. If there's questions that you want to put in front of the group and you want to do that anonymously, I can do that as well. If there's a topic that you want to discuss that you think should be a good live video, feel free to let me know. We'll do Spitfire Wellness. But be interactive. This is a lot more fun when it's not just me babbling about what I think is important, because it's definitely about the resources that you guys need. So I love you. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll talk tomorrow. Bye-bye.